Welcome to Slash Forward and the first in our next series, Friday the 13th. Let's get to it. The film opens with a little backstory. It's 1958 at Camp Crystal Lake. A group of counselors are singing wholesome songs of brotherhood and fellowship while we get a stalker's view of the children. The call of the music is too much as these two counselors can't help eye-banging the hell out of each other. One last hallelujah and they're off for some grimy storehouse coupling. Switch back to stalker vision and we find they've only partially begun the dry humping phase of their ritual when we, the audience, become complicit in their stabbing. We then jump forward to Friday the 13th, 1980, same area. A young woman's walking through town, expositing to stray dogs and ducking into a Greasy Spoon diner to ask directions of the locals. She gets a free ride from this nice gruff trucker who runs off Ralph, the town psychotic with impeccable posture, and then drives her a spell toward camp. He warns her along the way of the dark history of the camp, drownings, fires, murders, before dropping her off to walk the rest of the way. Meanwhile, Marcy, Ned, and Jack arrive at the camp from a different direction. They arrive right as the boss man, signified by his red neckerchief and overt hypermasculinity, is removing a stump. He immediately puts them to work, barks some quick orders at Alice, and then heads off, leaving them befuddled and disappointed as their primary objectives were smoking and screwing. We learn more about Alice, our main character, as Steve comes across her hanging a gutter using an advanced reverse grip hammering method. He comments on her artwork and gives her his best line.
You're very talented. You're very pretty.
And your mustache disturbs me. Due to a prior failed relationship together, Alice is giving this camp thing a week before deciding whether or not to stay. Afterwards, Steve gives some general directions and goals for the day before heading off into town for additional materials. Meanwhile, Annie manages to hitch a ride in this friendly Jeep and promptly spills her guts to the unknown stranger. She gets some bad vibes and then sees that they've driven past their turning point. When they don't slow, she tucks and rolls herself into the woods and takes off. She finds herself up against a tree where she gets her throat slit, and her face seems to be indicating this is uncomfortable. Back at camp, the kids are getting in some lake action. Unfortunately, it's time to get back to work as Jack's sundial indicates 3:30. But then there's trouble in the water as Ned goes under. They belly flop and boat out to him. Alice even throws in a late life preserver for good measure. Turns out Ned's just using this as a trick to make out with Brenda. Haha, you thought he was dead. Later on, an officer shows up right after Ned finished a few lines in the bathroom. He's mostly there to warn them about Ralph, who's been seen peddling around in the area. He gives them the say no to drugs speech before riding off into the lake. Psych! Now everyone begins to separate and set up for the evening's festivities. Ned sees someone entering a cabin and goes to have a chat. Meanwhile, Jack and Marcy are talking and getting super horny as a storm rolls in. So they find themselves back at their cabin getting down to business. Meanwhile, back at the Comanche cabin, an astute observation is made.
Jack and Marcy are gonna get drenched.
If you know what I mean. Things get saucy as they break out the grass and start to play strip Monopoly. Back with Marcy and Jack, the camera pans up to reveal Ned's fate. Upon graciously receiving Jack's gift, Marcy runs off to the bathroom. Jack goes for the classic tank top, no pants look as he ponders the day's events, only to shortly receive an arrow through the neck. Marcy partakes in a variety of activities in the bathroom, also hearing occasional noises. She eventually goes exploring, but only finds an unexpected axe in the face. At Comanche, Brenda realizes she left the windows open at her cabin, so she runs off to manage that. She's getting ready to turn in for the night when she hears a voice crying out for help. She goes looking for it and finds herself on the fully illuminated archery range, and we're left to assume her demise. Alice saw the archery floodlights on, so she and Bill go off to find out what's up, but only find strange indications that something weird is going on, but no counselors. They establish the phone lines are dead, cars won't start, and all modes of egress have been disabled. Meanwhile, Steve, experiencing his own car troubles, is being transported back by the sheriff, who has to leave him when he gets an emergency call. At camp, he's greeted by a night walker who immediately guts him. We're now down to Bill and Alice, who still have no idea what's going on. Bill heads off to check the generator while Alice sleeps on a dirty couch. When she awakes, Bill's not back, so she goes off to find him but's unable. Until she is. Now apprised of the situation, her final girl instincts kick in, and she begins to barricade herself in the cabin. She goes to secure the rest of the house when Brenda finds her in the kitchen. Shortly, a Jeep rolls up, and Alice runs out, assuming it's Steve. She finds a stranger instead. Mrs. Voorhees seems lovely enough, but is unnervingly calm and collected. When she bears witness to the wanton destruction inside, she begins to emote.
Oh, God, this place.
The more she talks, the more she begins to unravel in front of Alice, revealing that she is Jason's mother, the boy who drowned in 1958, inciting the original murders, and then Mr. Christie reopening the camp in defiance of her son's memory, being the secondary incitement. They scuffle and Alex runs into the woods, reuniting with all her friends who are now decorating the wilderness. They meet up in a cabin where Mrs. Voorhees starts slapping the shit out of Alice before taking a hard gut punch and then disengaging. They have a final showdown on the beach under the light of the full moon, ending in a decapitation. Alice then spends the night on the water, awaking in the morning only to be dragged under by freak boy Jason. Aw, there was no need to murder, he was in the water the whole time. The final cut confirms this was a hallucination, however, and then we go to the credits. And that was the original, led by Jason's mommy. When we return, we'll see how Jason manages his own killing spree. I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.